Hey, it's Logan, and I'm here with Brayden Jalissa Morales. How you doing, Brayden?
What show is this?
What show is this? Oh, this is. I was gonna say Everlasting Gobsmack, but that's just totally wrong.
Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me you built a time machine? My mom always said life was like a box of chocolate. Stop, do something! Health, sleep, murder.
Absolutely.
Gobsmack.
Yeah, and hey, I gave the intro today because you know what, Brayden is really excited. Well, not excited. I mean, this.
I'm too excited to talk.
So excited to talk. No, we're gonna mix things up a little bit. No, I'm just gonna do the intro, and then Brayden has a topic that he wanted to talk about, and then next week we're gonna have, I think next week, right?
Next week we're gonna have another topic I want to talk about,
Yep.
and then the week
So
after that you can take over. All right?
yeah. So we're gonna just roll it around a little bit, slather in it, I guess. No, but so
Yeah.
homework or not homework, mowing. Do we have any laundry to do? Do we have any chores to do before we get started? Jump into anything?
Let's see. Yeah. Everyone needs to start commenting and posting. Tell people about our podcast. Let people know we are growing, but we want to blow up. Okay, we want to just get it out there. Let your friends know that we are hilarious. No, just let them know that if they're movie fans or if they have a job where they can listen, at least give us a shot. Let them know. I mean, maybe they want to hear us talk.
And make sure to give them the wrong expectations. Make sure to tell them that we're hilarious and that we have PhDs. Make us sound extremely good,
Yes.
just to set us up to fail.
Yeah. We in reality we don't have PhDs. We do have ADHDs, but that's a little different.
Yes, quite. But you can call me from Mr. Doctor Professor Poindexter from this point on. Oh
All right, so go ahead.
yeah.
Sorry.
No, no,
Taking
no,
over.
no. It's all right. You're so used to it. It's all right. I
Yeah.
forgive you, Braden. No, but you had a topic. You had a topic. You had something that's a little bit sad. Well, it's quite sad, but it's definitely something worth talking about because it's changed the modern spec of how labor laws are enforced and how they're done with movies, especially with children. And I'll let you get into it.
Yeah, so it's definitely changed how people view the labor laws. There were child labor laws at the time, but they weren't necessarily followed. Okay. And I'll get into that right now. So, July 23rd, 1982 is the day that we are going to be talking about today. The movie we are going to be talking about is the Twilight Zone movie. Twilight Zone, the movie, something like that. You ever heard of that movie, Logan, before today?
Yes, actually. I'll be honest. I didn't see it, but I did
Right.
see the TV show, a couple of episodes, anyways. Back in the day when I still hung out with my parents, because I don't do that anymore. Because that's um, for
Baby
nerds.
stuff.
Yeah, baby stuff. No, back whenever I used to live with my parents, watch
Hmm.
black and white movies with my mom. Sometimes I would hop on, an episode here and there. So I'm quite familiar with the style, I suppose.
Oh yeah, I love the original Twilight Zone series. I think it's fantastic. Some of the stories are so interesting. It's interesting to see how things were done back then too. But I mean, great series, great show. I think it's still entertaining to this day. I think that even some children would find it entertaining if they're not easily scared.
Mhm.
Classic series, classic show. They decided to make a little movie kind of based on Twilight Zone. And also, the ride at Disney World is one of my favorite rides. It's really awesome. It's a lot of fun, and the theming takes you back in time to old Hollywood. But this is the early '80s. The show was more during the '50s and '60s era of television. So they're deciding to kind of bring it back in a way. This movie is more of an anthology series. So it's like a bunch of episodes put together into a movie. Smart idea at the time. What do you think, Logan?
Um, yeah, because I mean, it'll subvert your expectations for what a movie can be, and having a lot of stories, it's gonna definitely be fast paced. So it's gonna feel like an action movie, even though, like you said, it's an anthology. And because the TV show, would always you wouldn't know what would happen next, right? You're watching the next one and you're like, well, what's going to happen. You're always expecting the unexpected, but then it's unexpected still. So it's definitely a clever way to get people enthralled with a movie, and especially
Right.
bringing back older fans.
Yeah, and so I mean, Steven Spielberg's producing this. You got some top of the class, directors directing each sequence. John Landis is directing, and he's producing as well. You got Joe Dante, director of The Gremlins, directing a sequence. George Miller, a very well-known director, Happy Feet, all the Mad Max movies, including Fury Road. So you got some big shots involved in this movie, right? Now, the sequence we are going to discuss is one of the 4 sequences in the movie. It's based on an episode from the original Twilight Zone, a 1961 episode, season 3, episode 15, entitled "A Quality of Mercy." But in this movie, the title of the sequence is "Time Out." Okay.
Mhm.
Now, I'm just going to go into a little bit of what it's about, just basics. Bill Connor he's a racist guy. Okay, so he's a well-known racist, I guess, and he's transported back in time to different periods of time where he has to deal with racism against himself, like the Holocaust. And in this case, he's transported back during the Vietnam War, where he becomes a quote-unquote Vietnamese man protecting 2 children from American troops. Okay, and that's kind of the scene in question that we're going to be talking about, really. We're not going to talk about the whole movie, just this specific incident. Okay, now the director of this sequence is John Landis. Okay, pretty well-known guy, especially back then, not so much now, but some things he's well known for. He directed the Thriller music video, which is considered one of the greatest music videos ever made, right?
It's still on top charts today. As far as you go on YouTube and you look up best music videos of all time, it's bound to be in there somewhere.
Right.
Everyone's opinion is different, but that's just one of those classics.
Exactly. He directed some really classic comedies, including Animal House. He directed The Blues Brothers. We know that movie, right?
Mhm.
Trading Places, Three Amigos, that'll be an episode on its own coming up. Coming to America, which is a classic that they're actually making a sequel on right now. It's going to be
Oh,
coming out
really?
soon with Eddie Murphy. Yeah. So, not doing so much now. Partly because of what we're going to talk about. Okay, and we're going to get into that. So, obviously, Vic Morrow plays this racist guy. He's an actor. He was pretty well known at the time. His daughter is a well-known actress, Jennifer Jason Leigh, who's been nominated for an Oscar a time or two, and so she's pretty popular now. She's a well-known actress now, but at the time he was playing this racist man, Bill Connor,
Mm.
and obviously, if he's going to be taking care of some or rescuing some Vietnamese children, makes sense for you to have real Vietnamese children on set, right?
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, John Landis violated California's labor laws by hiring a 7-year-old and 6-year-old children. They were actually Chinese, they weren't Vietnamese,
Yeah.
without the required permits. So basically, they were hiding this fact. They wanted to get away with filming really late at night, violating the laws. They didn't get a permit. He paid the parents of the children under the table, and he would not have gotten approval anyways, just because this scene would have had a large number of explosions, okay? And it makes sense why they wouldn't be allowed on set, don't you think, Logan?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, whenever you have, I mean, I love kids, but they're about as smart as a pile of bricks. They don't understand whenever you tell them, look, this is going to be dangerous. A lot of times you have to show them or let them get hurt in a minor way to make sure that they learn. Don't do that. Whenever you tell your kids don't touch the oven, it's hot, and you yell at them, they're still going to be one day. They're still going to go and touch it, and they're going to learn. But yeah, unfortunately, in this kind of situation, that's this kind of stuff. If they learn the hard way, it's gonna be permanent. So yeah, definitely, I could understand why they wouldn't get permission even if he got all correct permits.
Yeah, I mean, it's really sad how they try to get away with so much. Landis even opted not to seek any special waiver, which would allow them to work at night because he felt like they wouldn't get permission because this particular scene in question at this time was being filmed at 2:30 in the morning, so middle of the night, really late. Lots of explosions. Casting agents were unaware that the children would be involved in the scene. Associate producer George Folsey Jr. told the children's parents not to tell any firefighters on set that their children would be part of the scene, and he hid them from a fire safety officer who also worked as a welfare worker. The fire safety officer was actually concerned that the blasts in this particular scene would cause a crash, but he didn't, express those concerns to the director. Okay.
Yeah, well, and that actually seems like a theme with this specific director. In some of my own research, I found a lot of people were concerned with different aspects of the scene, and they didn't say anything because they were actually afraid of Landis because he was known to kind of get pretty vocal about things, kind of tyrannical, kind of dictatorial. There is definitely warning signs. Whenever you have to hide something from a lot of people, you know what I mean? Whenever you know that this would be a concern for so many people, that's just a red flag. The pilot, he was concerned with the explosions because he was actually a Vietnam veteran. The pilot of the helicopter that was part of the scene, he was not quite having PTSD. It wasn't that bad, but he was just getting anxious and quite afraid. But he didn't say anything because, again, he didn't want to get yelled at.
Yeah, and he didn't have any experience with films, which I believe to be a different beast than actually, you've got to be careful, especially when there's explosives around, as you'll see. So they're filming at 2:30 in the morning on this fateful day, and in this particular instance, Moreau's character is supposed to carry these two children out of a deserted village and across a shallow river, while being pursued by American soldiers in a hovering helicopter. And the helicopter was piloted, as you mentioned, by a Vietnam veteran, Dorsey Wingo. Now, Wingo stationed his helicopter 25 feet from the ground, but he was hovering near a very large mortar effect. He turned the aircraft 180 degrees to the left for the next camera shot. The effect was detonated while the helicopter's tail rotor was still above it, causing the rotor to fail and detach from the tail. Okay, that's a big uh-oh, right?
Yeah.
The low-flying helicopter started spinning out of control. At the same time, Moreau dropped Chen, one of the children, that's the name of one of the children, the child actors, into the water. He was reaching out to grab her when the helicopter fell on top of him and the two children. Moreau and one of the children were decapitated, the one that he was still holding, by the helicopter's main rotor blades, while Chen was crushed to death by the helicopter's right landing skid. All three died instantaneously.
At least it was quick.
Well, they shouldn't have died at all, really. This should have been avoided. Avoidable deaths, I mean, there's too many of them. Far too many of them.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Landis, some of the producers, and the pilot were charged with involuntary manslaughter. They were taken to court. Yeah.
Yep. As would be expected by literally everyone on the set that didn't know what was going on, didn't read the warning signs for sure.
At the trial, the defense claimed that the explosions were detonated at the wrong time. Okay. Randall Robinson, he was an assistant cameraman on board the helicopter. He testified that production manager Dan Ailingham told Wingo, "That's too much, let's get out of here," when the explosions were detonated. But Landis shouted over the radio, "Get lower, lower!" Robinson said that Wingo tried to leave the area, but that we lost our control and regained it, and then I could feel something let go, probably when the rotor became detached.
Yeah.
from the back. We began spinning around in circles. Stephen Lydecker, also a camera operator on board, testified that Landis had earlier shrugged off warnings about the stunt with the comment, "We may lose the helicopter." So, yeah.
Well, but I mean, the concern is not the helicopter. What about the people inside the helicopter? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, I mean,
Right.
those helicopters aren't built like modern ones. They're not a titanium case. I mean, obviously they're a lot safer than other helicopters because it's military spec. But you don't know whether you're going to be able to get out of that thing alive or not. I mean, that's
Right. And if it crashes, what about the people below?
true. Yeah, yeah. Too
You
too
know?
too many too many red flags. Too many red flags.
Yeah. Lydecker acknowledged that Landis might have been joking when he made the remark, but he said, "I learned not to take anything the man said as a joke. It was his attitude. He didn't have time for suggestions from anybody." Okay. So, Landis sounds like a huge jerk here, right?
Yeah.
To make matters worse, man, he just sounds like an entitled piece of work, really. I mean, he actually, for Vic Morrow, this really talented actor who unfortunately lost his life along with the two children who shouldn't have even been there. He attended the funeral for Vic Morrow, even though he was not invited, and it looked like he was high on cocaine or on coke. He was all coked up, according to some witnesses. He could barely stand, and he gave a really very disrespectful eulogy, implying that the Twilight Zone movie was the height of his career, the height of Vic Morrow's career.
That's yeah. I mean, and I know it was the '80s, and a lot of people were on all those different types of drugs and stuff. But that's just the amount of disrespect. You know what I mean? Like a little bit of disrespect, like all right, you're a jerk, but that is just outright like I don't know. There's words that aren't acceptable for YouTube and other places for those kind of people, if you know what I mean.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just he's just a huge jerk show. Is what it sounds like to me. Some of the aftermath. So one of the children's father, Daniel Lee, testified that he did hear Landis instructing the helicopter to fly lower. All four parents testified that they were never told that there would be helicopters or explosives on set. Okay, they had been reassured that there would be no danger, only noise. So he's really he's lying. He's hiding things. I mean, he's the cause of death, really, for 3 people.
Yep.
And it doesn't seem like it's on his conscience anymore. So it doesn't seem like this guy has a conscience, honestly.
Yeah,
I mean,
honestly.
jeez.
I mean, if it was like everybody had known about the kids, if only part of this was true, but the fact that they had an associate producer hide the children completely from firefighters and other people who are on set, I mean, that just doesn't look good. It definitely shows that, like you said, he doesn't even have a conscience.
Yeah, it's sad. So actually, one of the children's fathers, the one that I mentioned here, Daniel Lee, he survived the Vietnam War and then immigrated to the United States with his wife. And he was horrified when the explosions began on the Vietnamese village set, bringing back memories of the war. So all these people, Landis, Folsey, the producer that was hiding the children, Wingo, which is the helicopter pilot, production manager Ailingham, and explosive specialist Paul Stewart were tried and acquitted on charges of manslaughter in a 9-month trial that lasted from 1986 to 1987, which is 3 to 4 years after the actual incident. So they weren't charged with anything. They got away scot-free, or scotch-free. Is that how you say the word? I don't know.
Yeah, scot-free. But yeah.
Morrow's family settled within a year. The children's families collected millions of dollars from several civil lawsuits. A second assistant director, Andy House, had his name removed from the credits and replaced with the pseudonym Alan Smithy. It is the first time that a director was charged due to a fatality on a set. I mean, really sad. Obviously, there was new rules and regulations added because of all of this. There's the Directors Guild of America's Safety Committee, began publishing regular safety bulletins for his members, and established a telephone hotline. That way, directors can get quick answers to safety questions. Also, There was discipline. The guild began to discipline its members for any violations of its safety procedures on set, which did not happen before this crash. They never did any repercussions for anyone if they violated anything. The Screen Actors Guild introduced a 24-hour hotline and safety team for its members and encouraged members to use the right of refusal guaranteed in contracts if they believe a scene is unsafe. Now, because of all this, filming accidents fell by 69.6% between 1982 and 1986, although there were still 6 other deaths on set.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, accidents are accidents, but I mean, there's stuff that's avoidable that, I mean, you can't get political about these things, but I mean, there's like you said, avoidable deaths, and to see it drop, that much was definitely a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
I know it's definitely rare to hear about any kind of deaths in movies nowadays. Of course,
They
I know
still
it does.
happen.
Yeah. I was about to say it still happens, but it's definitely less common.
It seems like it's more the stunt crew members that end up stuntmen, stunt women that end up getting hurt and dying too. That's really what is happening more and more. They have stunt people that are trained professionals. There were no stunt people on this set. They had them all do it legit. Vic Morrow, the 2 children. And that's part of the reason why. I mean, even the pilot necessarily wasn't he wasn't trained in this, so he wasn't a stunt pilot either.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now they have trained stuntmen, stunt women that do all these stunts for these actors because, they're less likely to die or get hurt because they know what they're doing, right? You want to hear how much of It's All About Me Landis is he said in an interview in 1996, there was absolutely no good aspect about this whole story, no duh.
Yeah.
The tragedy, which I think about every day, yeah, right, had an enormous impact on my career from which it may possibly never recover. So, as if that's what matters the most, right, is his career.
Yeah.
Not the lives of the people that were lost or even the people in the helicopter that survived. They could have died just as easily, right?
Yeah.
And any people on the ground as well could have died. The helicopter, if he didn't hit the actor and the children, he could have killed a bunch of the production team, the crew. He could have killed Landis, but he didn't think about that, did he?
No. I mean, and that's the thing is, realizing your own what you could do and what you can't do. I mean, jumping into something like that, especially when you already have concerns, getting yelled at is one thing, but still being able to have those kids and that actor still around is more important than getting yelled at. And then that's the thing too, is this director, how tyrannical he was. Everybody was afraid to stand up to him, and so it's good to see people standing up to their directors and producers saying, look, this is not going to be okay.
Yep. Steven Spielberg, who co-produced the film with Landis, broke off his friendship with him after this accident. Spielberg said the crash made me grow up a little more and left everyone who worked on the movie sick to the center of our souls. He added, no movie is worth dying for. I think people are standing up much more now than ever before to producers and directors who ask too much. If something isn't safe, it's the right and responsibility of every actor or crew member to yell cut. Very sad situation. Avoidable deaths. You can actually see they do have video of the death on YouTube. It's not graphic because the film is not super clear, and you can see the helicopter land on Vic Morrow and the kids, but you can't actually see, the gruesome effect of what happened because it all happened so fast and you can't really see anything. But it is there, and it's very disturbing. Just because that they just died. A warning there, don't watch it if you're easily disturbed or if it would affect you in any negative way. But it is available for people on YouTube. You can watch the video of the deaths.
For those who are morbidly curious.
Yeah.
That Landis guy, he's a real piece of work. And honestly, it seems like it runs in the family because I ran into some articles about his son having a lot of sexual abuse cases, sprung up against him. In fact, one of his ex-girlfriends was very upset with him because he continued to post stuff, videos and pictures about her, even though they had been broken up for a while. Like, Uh, I mean, w- that's not something that a normal person would do. Is just start posting pictures about his, your ex on Instagram and stuff like that. Um, but he kind of had a long list of self destructive behavior, um, and he went off. He's a screenwriter and a director as well, and there's been a lot of people who here it says on the Daily Beast. I'm reading this from the Daily Beast. They had said it gets worse every day. Every story I hear, I'm like, how do I think? How did I think I knew this person? It's horrifying, but I just feel like I need to be as honest as possible, since my goal in this is to help other people not be the same position. Because he seemed to have hurt a lot of people. So I mean, this self-destructive, self-absorbed behavior seems to run in the family.
Yeah, I mean, apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, as they say.
Yeah,
Um, so his name's Max Landis. He's a screenwriter and director, like his father. People claim that he got away with it a lot because he was the son of a famous director. And Max Landis, he's not doing anything now since 2017, it looks like, or 2018. But he was known for co-writing the script for Chronicle. I don't know if you saw that movie. Pretty good movie. And then one of the latest, Victor Frankenstein, which I heard wasn't very good. I never saw it. And Bright, the Netflix movie with Will Smith. But ever since then, he's got nothing. Probably because of these accusations, but I'm not surprised. I mean, doesn't sound like they're a good family.
yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. I mean, a son growing up in a world where people always tell you, your dad killed people. I mean, that's gonna mess you up a little bit. But also, it sounds like his dad did drugs, and honestly, that's gonna mess up your son as well. And so, like you said, apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. It's easy to become self-absorbed and to not reach out and find help. He obviously couldn't go to his dad because, look at how his dad acted with people outside of his family. So imagine how he treated his family. Just a sad deal overall.
What was the line that Vic Moreau was supposed to say
Oh
before,
yeah,
right after, if the accident hadn't happened?
and that's honestly one of the the saddest things in this whole deal, um, was like you said. He had a scripted line, so it was going to be almost right after the point where he unfortunately got hit by the helicopter. But he was supposed to tell the kids, "I'll keep you safe, kids. I promise. Nothing will hurt you. I swear to God." That's beyond ironic. That's painfully ironic. I guess is the best way to put it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's so sad that it's a coincidence, but those are the words that he was supposed to say, and he couldn't say them because this just wasn't true.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. Yep.
And another little snippet that Landis, I mean, this guy's a real piece of work. He said this during an interview with a journalist. When you read about the accident, they say we were blowing up huts, which we weren't, and that debris hit the tail rotor of the helicopter, which it didn't. The FBI crime lab, who was working for the prosecution, finally figured out that the tail rotor delaminated, which is why the pilot lost control. The special effects man who made the mistake by setting off a fireball at the wrong time was never charged. Sounds like he's deflecting here. I mean, buddy, even if it was set off at the wrong time, he made a mistake. Who put those children in that situation?
Yeah.
Who hired all these people or was in charge of all these people being there? You and the producers. You're directly responsible for these kids being there, and there's a reason you were hiding the fact that they were on set from other people, and there was a reason you were hiding from their parents that there would be no explosives on set because there was a risk, and you knew it. You knew there was a risk. You knew there was a possibility, but you brushed it off because it probably wouldn't happen, right?
Yeah.
We could get away with it. I
Besides,
wonder
he
how
saved
much.
a buck.
What would you say?
I said, besides, he could save a buck, and that's the real. I mean, he put a price to people's lives, and that's just. I mean, and the government, and you have to be technical with things, and in our society today, there is a price for human life, unfortunately, and there shouldn't be, but um, I mean, he cheapened it, and that's just disgusting.
Right. And I wonder how much else he's gotten away with, and how much have these really well-known famous directors, actors, actresses, how much have they gotten away with just because of who they are? You
Yeah.
know, I mean, since we do have time, not even just with, child labor laws, but with some of the disgusting things that they can do to people or children and get away with it because they're famous or
Yeah.
because they're well known.
Because they
I
can make
mean,
a phone call and take somebody's job away, so then they force them to do something that
yep.
they wouldn't want to.
I mean, you look
It's
at guys
just
like Harvey Weinstein,
Mhm.
one of the most well known producers, and the tactics that he tried just to get what he wanted because he was powerful, right? Because he could get people the roles that they wanted.
Yeah.
It makes me think how many talented people, genuinely talented people, have we missed out on because they didn't do what these nasty, greedy people wanted them to do.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and talented people, and also just fantastic movies that we've lost out on, and uh, beyond movies, experiences. People having jobs, people having um, exciting lives. Because even before this, back in kind of going back to how our podcast started, back with the Wizard of Oz. Um, Back in those days, a lot of Hollywood was run by not really run, but influenced, we'll say, by um, the mob.
Yeah, you're
They
right.
they they hired people, and they said, well, I want this actor or this actress because they're pretty, or because they do what I tell them to do. Yeah, I mean, we could have so many more classics out there for sure.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, back then it was the mob. Nowadays, the people feel like there's a lot of well-known people that are secretly pedophiles. What do you think about that? You think that's true?
Um, it honestly, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, there's so many messed up people out there, and unfortunately, those people are usually some kind of visionary, where people see something good out of them, and a lot of times, whenever you have a screw loose, sometimes you do stuff that's unexpected in it, and it works, and people appreciate it. But then there's the side of you that's all messed up, and fortunately, we can't always have the good. Sometimes the bad comes along with it. I guess there's no real good way of putting that, but yeah, I think there's probably an untold amount of people who are just absolutely disgusting, and shouldn't have the jobs they have, but hold power.
Yeah. I don't think that talent should be everything. It doesn't explain the character of someone, of
Yep.
what they really are. John Landis may be a very talented director. I mean, he's directed some really good movies and some really good music videos. But the person that he is and that he comes across as, I wouldn't want him directing any of my movies.
Yep.
No way. Because look at what he's willing to risk. As Steven Spielberg said, no movie is worth risking lives, and John Landis doesn't feel that way. Apparently, he feels like it is worth risking lives if he can get a good shot, a good sequence.
Yep. And you could appreciate Drive, but there's a difference between Drive and looking for that perfect shot, and putting people in mortal danger. It's, like you said, not worth it. But one big thing that we could take away from all of this is the fact that people are finally standing up for this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? People are realizing that if they could get to the press, if they could get to somebody else, they could put it out there. It's so easy now to tweet out something too, or to record stuff with your phone. So we're in the information age, where everything is out there. And so I'm sure it saved a lot of people.
Yeah, I hate to play devil's advocate here. You're right in that, and I agree with you. But how many people are also being falsely accused?
It's true.
I think it's so easy to accuse someone now of something or blow something out of proportion.
Yeah.
Not to discredit anyone that's actually experienced something horrific or horrendous, but just in general, it's
Well,
like there's pros and cons to everything.
yeah. Well, and it belittles, say for instance, somebody had actually been, and we'll just use Max Landis as a situation hypothetically. Say for this one woman, we'll just call her Julie, which was one of his ex-girlfriends. She had been abused by him,
Mhm.
sexually, emotionally, whatever it is. He abused her, and she came out and said it. But he had actually met another girl. It was just a one night thing. And she was like, "Hey, he's famous. I could get in on this, make a couple bucks." And then she comes and says, "Oh yeah, he hurt me too." Knows nothing of the guy or the situation, and she wasn't actually hurt, but she was just going out there for a penny grab. Um, and so it belittles the person who is actually affected by something terrible. So yeah, I definitely agree with you.
Yeah, you got to be able to, now you have to figure out what's true and what's not true. And
Yep.
it's easy to get them confused, and it's easy to say, maybe this account actually didn't happen because someone else made something up, and it sounds like they just are going after him or they don't like him. When in reality, one of the incidents was true, but one of them wasn't.
Yep.
But it's easy to group them together into one section or the other. True or untrue, made up, blown out of proportion.
Yep.
People are
And,
going to
and
do that.
yeah, and it's so easy to take an extremist side too.
Mm-hmm.
It's always balance is always the key to things. Looking with an eye of scrutiny, but also with hope that things are good. So it's, as I always say, like, expect the worst, but hope for the best. So you're never truly disappointed, but you're never completely caught off guard either.
So, very sad story. And unfortunately, next episode is also a sad story. But I think it's important we educate people on the past and things that maybe they weren't aware of. They weren't alive during that time period, so they didn't realize this happened. But we're going to need to go over it because I think it's very important that people are educated on some of these issues or some of the things that have happened. So next week it's gonna be our true crime episode, and it's one that hits me a certain way, just like Rebecca Schaefer's story did. This one, I think, in my opinion, I don't want to say it's worse to belittle or discredit Rebecca Schaefer's story, but to me, it's more horrific, and we'll go over that next week. So, I guess I don't want to say look forward to, but look out for that episode. It's going to be a big one. It's going to be
Yep.
a big one.
Yep. Yeah, and it's, man, you're killing me, Brayden. we need to have after that episode. We'll have a funny one, guys. I promise.
Yes.
We'll break it up. We'll try to keep things less of a downer. We're not gonna be Debbie Downers here all
Yeah.
the time.
Well, actually,
But these are worth talking about. Go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say it's not going to be back-to-back sad episodes because I am going to be releasing a bonus episode after this one with Israel. Another top 5 list with me and Israel. So it's going to be a bonus episode. So in between these two sad ones, we are going to have something more grounded. I think you'll appreciate that. So look forward to that one for sure. It's going to be a good one. We'll be recording that. Me and him will be recording that tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, it sounds like Brain is trying to replace me, guys. I don't know. I should be looking out for another podcast to be on.
If anyone's hiring for a co-host, please take him.
But speaking of, it's just in time for my bedtime. What say
Is it?
you? Yep. It's
Wow.
about 3:10, so yeah, nap time.
Is it too late because you're a child and we got child labor laws to consider?
Oh yeah. So now I can't be up past 3. I have to take my nap. Gotta have my
3 p.m.
juice box. Yeah, my juice box and chocolate milk. If I can't have both, well, guess what? You're getting sued.
Sued.
So gladly kids are definitely treated better nowadays in film.
Yeah, well, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
And to that I say, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Dreams to dream In the dark of the night, when the world goes wrong, I can still make it right. I can see so far in my dreams. I'll follow my dreams until they come true.